took everything he loved.
Promise me that you will look after my family.
Your family will meet you in the afterlife.
Destroyed everything he was.
I'm a slave. What possible difference can I make?
Now,
every day he lives, they grow bolder.
he will return.
Today I saw a slave become more powerful than the Emperor of Rome.
And a hero will rise. Russell Crowe. Gladiator. Rated R.
So welcome to Trimming the Movie Fat, the podcast where we trim films from franchises that don't belong. I'm Stephen Nicholson, and thank you for joining me as I put on my sandals and unsheath my sword to go into battle with the Gladiator movies. Next week it's the turn of the just-released Gladiator 2. Today I travel back to the year 2000 and the classic Ridley Scott original Gladiator.
My name is Gladiator.
Joining me in my chariot heading into the arena is my friend Paul Melon.
At my signal, unleash hell.
Who is he?
I'm required to kill, so I kill.
Tell me your name.
My name is Maximus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, loyal servant to the true Emperor Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
Win the crowd, and you will win your freedom.
Are you not entertained?
Today I saw a slave become more powerful than the Emperor of Rome.
I will give them something they've never seen before. What we do in life echoes in eternity.
In a way, you've gotten guys a Best Picture nomination. I'm thinking about Ridley Scott, who used your improvisation in Gladiator. Was it true that there was only like 25 pages of a script for
26,
Gladiator? That sounds absurd to me. How do they go into a production with 26 pages?
Well, they didn't know that.
What do you mean they don't know that?
Well, the studio think they have a script.
Right.
And other producers think they have a script. But when Ridley and I sat down together and we went through it page by page and we marked stuff that made no sense or that was silly.
That you whittled it down to 26 pages.
Yeah, it might have actually been 22 now that I think about it. Yeah. And then the next movie we made a few years later, we started with like 45 pages. And I said to him, one of these days, mate, can we make a
real movie with a script?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's finished.
We haven't done that yet.
Caesar is happy to present the only undefeated champion in Roman history, the legendary Titus. Give me a break. One other thing, Gladiator thinks that when the Romans wanted somebody to live, they signaled with thumbs up. Actually, live was signaled by a thumb inside the fist. An extended thumb in any direction meant death. But nobody in this movie knows this, and that's good for Maximus.
You know, who cares? I don't think it matters. It's hard to even know where to begin here. I thought this was one of the best movies I've ever seen. I thought this was one of the best movies of the year.
Ever seen?
And you make this film
of the year?
Of the year easily. You make it sound frivolous. There's nothing frivolous about this movie.
This doesn't have any depth. It doesn't have any juice.
Is eloquent. The story grabs you from the beginning. It is visualized in a way that Ridley Scott is known for, where he reinvented the future in Blade Runner. He gives us an authentic, fresh take on the past here. It is not murky, and wherever it is murky, it serves the battle sequences.
It is very,
Russell Crowe, an actor of tremendous, charismatic, towering power. He has a kind of intensity and eloquence that we haven't seen, I think, since Richard Burton, and he also reminds me of Anthony Hopkins.
So Gladiator was released in the year 2000 and directed by Ridley Scott. So Commodus, Joaquin Phoenix, takes power and strips rank from Maximus, Russell Crowe, one of the favoured generals of his predecessor and father, Emperor Marcus Aurelius, the great stoical philosopher. Maximus is then relegated to fighting to the death in the gladiator arenas. So the movie grossed $461 million worldwide on a budget of $103 million. So it made over 4.5 times its budget and was the second highest grossing movie worldwide in 2000. Ratings-wise, it has a 79% fresh Rotten Tomatoes score, an 87% Rotten Tomatoes audience score, and on IMDb, it has an 8.5 out of 10 audience rating and a 67 out of 100 critic Metascore. And here's a fact related to the movie. So Oliver Reed died 3 weeks before principal photography ended. Because his character Promiso was considered a key character, a clause in the movie's insurance contract would have allowed the filmmakers to reshoot all of Reed's scenes with another actor at the insurer's expense, which was about $25 million. However, most of the actors and crew were exhausted from the punishing schedule, and Sir Ridley Scott did not want to cut Reed from the movie. The script was rewritten, and a body double and CGI were used to give Reed's character a plausible resolution. And if you're looking for a movie mistake in the film, the streets of Rome are very sandy, but in reality, they were paved with stones. And in summary, courtesy of Rotten Tomatoes, while not everyone will be entertained by Gladiator's glum revenge story, Russell Crowe thunderously wins the crowd with a star-making turn that provides Ridley Scott's opulent resurrection of Rome its bruised heart. So, Paul, Gladiator, when and where did you first see the movie, and what did you think of it?
I saw it in the cinema not long after it came out, and I thought it was excellent. Maybe a wee bit slow in places, perhaps, but I think overall, I thought it was superb right from the start. It was a great opening. You got that bit of text about the history of it all, and then Russell Crowe on the battlefield, watching the robin fly off, and then you see him march into the battlefield, where you saw the Romans getting ready for the fight, accompanied by the great music, the Hans Zimmer soundtrack. But yeah, I loved it. I thought it was brilliant. It's a long time since we had a sword and sandals epic. Seems a lot of them made in the sort of 60s and 70s. So that was the first one. I think it was made for about 20, 30 years. Yeah, so overall it was an excellent film and very enjoyable. Well worth the money.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Yeah, I actually vividly remember seeing it because, before we started recording, I was just saying me and Alison were away for the weekend, and actually the weekend Gladiator was released. I remember we were away for the weekend and we came back to Edinburgh, I think on the Sunday, and thought, right, let's go and see Gladiator. So I vividly remember that, and yeah, I thought it was great because, as you say, kind of what made it stand out at the time was because you just didn't get those kind of swords and sandal type epics anymore. And if they did get made, they weren't successful at all. So it was just so unusual to have this summer blockbuster coming out, which was in a lot of ways old fashioned, but obviously with modern technology, the effects, the CGI, and the epic scale and everything there. So I loved it. I thought it was great, just very different to what was out at the time. So Russell Crowe's performance as Maximus is often praised, and Maximus as a character undergoes a major transformation throughout the film. What do you think drives his journey? What makes him this really compelling hero?
Well, he was a soldier, first of all, and a great general, and also a family man as well, with his wife and son being murdered. That drove him for vengeance against the Emperor, against Commodus. I think because he was already a soldier and a leader, it was more believable. And he just looked the part as well. He looked muscular and masculine, I suppose. And yeah, I just think he was credible as a character. And yeah, just a good old-fashioned story of revenge. It's a story that's been told many times, and I think it was done very well.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big selling points. I think Russell Crowe looks fantastic in this movie. And speaking as a man, you'd watch that and go, yeah, I wouldn't mind being a bit like him. The voice, the physique, the fighting skills. Obviously, a good family man as well. I think also his ethics, doing the right thing. He's the one that wants to do the right thing. So yeah, his moral compass is very appealing as well. And I think one of the big things about this movie is the revenge story is told so well that we do hate Commodus, and when we talk about Commodus very, very shortly, but yeah, I mean, obviously, they've kind of taken away his life, so to speak. They've taken away his wife and child there. They've taken away his father figure as well, so it does make it this really compelling revenge story, yeah. And the film did win multiple Oscars, including the Best Picture and Best Actor for Russell Crowe. Deserved in your eyes?
Yes, I think so. I think it's a shame that Ridley Scott didn't get Best Director, but I think
it
was up against Traffic, which is another great film. But I still think, given that they hoovered up all the other major awards, he should have got Best Director, I think.
I agree.
I don't know why he did. I don't know if he annoyed the Academy or whatever, but it was a shame he didn't get it. Because for once, I mean, I think Ridley Scott's films can be a bit hit or miss. When they're hits, they're brilliant, like Gladiator and Alien, Blade Runner, and Black Hawk Down.
Thelma and Louise.
A lot of the time, the other films I've seen, they're just boring. They look really good. All his films always look good. Sometimes he gets a really dodgy script. I don't think he looked at the script that much. It's more about the visuals, and the stories can be a bit slow, to say the least. And I think, he is a director. As a director, he's always been hit or miss. But certainly Gladiator was a big hit.
And the Oscar goes to Russell Crowe in Gladiator.
I owe this to one bloke, and his name is Ridley Scott.
So yeah, I mean, Ridley Scott is known for his distinctive visual style, and I think the lighting, the colour, the framing enhances the film's epic scale, and it does give it emotional weight. But you're right, I was kind of looking through his kind of filmography before the show. He is more miss than hit, but when he gets it right, I mean, he makes classics. He's probably got 5 or 6 in his locker over the course of his career. But yeah, he should have got the Oscar for this. And I think coming back to the Best Acting Oscar, I do remember I thought Tom Hanks was a bit unlucky, but I think any other year he would have got it for Castaway, which he's brilliant in, and obviously went through the big weight loss transformation as well. I love that movie. It's one of my favourites.
Wilson, where are you? Wilson! Wilson!
So I think, I wish that year they could have given out to Called It a Heat. But if I had to pick between the two, it'd be Russell Crowe, because it's, we're doing this 24 years later and we're still talking about his performance. It's memorable. It's he plays one of the classic movie characters, not just of the last 25 years, but of all time, I would say.
What we do in life echoes in eternity.
And what do you think of the dynamic between Maximus and Commodus? How do their personalities and motivations serve as contrast to one another?
I think Commodus is probably just so weak, and he tries to hide his weaknesses by being tough and ruthless, exploiting his position. He has to keep showing people he's in charge, whereas with Maximus, he's in charge. I think that's the key difference. There's jealousy as well, of course, because Commodus' his father, and they really like him very much. And he was going to make Maximus in charge of Rome after he died. And so, of course, it's, again, an old-fashioned story, jealousy and rivalry.
Am I not merciful?
Yeah, and I think even Marcus Aurelius says that to Maximus, you're the son that I should have had. I'm sure he says to him, doesn't he?
Yeah. And
actually, he has another brilliant line when Commodus turns up after the battle's taken place. I think he says to his dad, "Have I missed the battle?" And Aurelius turned around, "You have missed the war."
Yeah, I'll sacrifice 1,000 bulls in celebration of the victory, though.
I mean, there is, I will talk about it later, but this is such a well-written movie. It's just full of quotable lines, which you never forget. It's full of them. But yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head with Commodus. He's weaselly, isn't he? He's cowardly, he's weaselly, and you just can't wait for him to get his comeuppance, which Maximus duly dishes out to him. And obviously the supporting casts include the likes of Connie Nielsen as Lucilla. We had Oliver Reed as Proximo, Richard Harris as Aurelius, and Derek Jacobi as Gracchus. So they obviously add significant layers to the story. Which of those, or which of the performances in the entire movie, other than Russell Crowe, stood out to you most, and why?
I liked his mate, the gladiator mate. I forget the actor's name. Yeah. Jimon, some of them.
Jimon Hunso, yeah. Yeah. So he stood out to you, yeah.
Well, I think you also got the main characters, some of the big actors like Derek Jacobi and Richard Harris. I think what makes these types of films better is the ensemble. The sort of the other gladiators. Because you can see them when they're at their work, basically, where they're resting and talking to each other. I think adds more to the film, more meat to the bones, as it were. Because it could have just been the focus on the main characters, and the other gladiators has just been the background. But the fact that a couple of them get to quite prominent roles, they're not just extras, they participate in the film as well. I think that's a better way of doing a film, rather than just focusing on the main stars. You get the all-round cast, and I think it makes it look better.
Yeah, I mean, it was a good balance in this. The cast is brilliant because you had your kind of new stars, your up-and-comers coming into light, like your Connie Nielsens and Russell Crowes, and then you had your stalwarts like Oliver Reed and Richard Harris, Derek Jacobi, and those guys really brought a lot of gravitas to things. It kind of legitimizes it. And it's one of these movies you could actually see being performed at the theatre. You could actually get this cast and you could see them actually doing it on stage, which is actually a big compliment to them all. And yeah, they're not just background characters. They do have their moments in the sun, and they do add to the overall story. And you mentioned earlier on about the battle sequences, obviously the one at the beginning, which is fantastic. And yeah, quite brutal. It kind of sets its stall out very early. So I mean, they're very intense and visceral, the battle sequences. Do you have a favourite of all the ones contained in the movie?
I think the opening one, because it just sets the scene, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the battles in the Colosseum, the small one in Africa, I think it was, and then because the main one in Rome, they were obviously really well done. I just remember watching a making-of documentary. I think it was one of the DVD extras. They were filming the scene with the tiger, and the tiger was jumped to the stuntman, and Russell Crowe walks onto the shot. It's like a wildlife presenter. And you see here the tiger jumps. That was brilliant. I mean, all the battle sequences were done really well. I think the best Colosseum fight was the one with the chariots, and the gladiators basically mangled the bad guys, despite overwhelming odds.
My history's a little hazy, Cassius. But shouldn't the barbarians lose the Battle of Carthage?
Yes, sire. Forgive me, sire.
And yeah, I think that was the best Colosseum fight.
Yeah, I'm with you there, because I love, because I think that particular scene is not only fantastic from the action perspective, because you've got the chariots, and that's for the gladiators, their introduction to the Colosseum. So you've got all that going on, but you've also then, once it ends, you've got the drama with Commodus coming down to meet, the Spaniard, and obviously then there's revealed to be Maximus, and you've got Hans Zimmer's music building, Russell Crowe doing that speech, which we'll come on to. And it's just, the whole thing's just dramatic and brilliantly filmed.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's absolutely amazing.
What I liked about those sequences when they're showing Commodus, laughing and sticking his tongue out, that was actually genuine reactions to the stunt sequences. And Ridley Scott just kept it in. So he was actually laughing at all the stuntmen, what was going on, and sticking his tongue out. I was like, oh, whilst they were filming it, and he kept it in.
And the thing is that, well, we're going to talk about Gladiator 2 next week, but obviously the opening titles for that kind of have a summary of what happened in Gladiator, spoiler, but animation style, and they use a couple of Joaquin Phoenix's faces from that in the title sequence in the animated version, which is quite good.
I thought it was rubbish.
Well, the animated bit, yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't get that at all. It reminded me of the Queen video Innuendo, that style of cartoon.
Yeah, it does. That's a good shout, yeah.
But it's just not.
Not for you. Not for you. Well, let's talk about something more positive, something that we've already said. This movie is highly quotable. What are some of your favourite lines from the movie?
Obviously, I am Maximus Decimus Meridius, blah, blah, blah. The iconic speech.
Brilliant.
My name is Maximus Decimus Meridius, commander of the armies of the North, general of the Felix Legions, loyal servant to the true emperor, Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next.
For me, Paul, that whole scene's one of my favourite ever movie scenes. Everything about it is incredible.
Yeah.
Just the way Ridley Scott frames it, kind of zooms in, and Russell Crowe's walking towards Commodus looking like a complete badass with a voice, Marcus Aurelius, father to a murdered son, husband to a murdered wife, emperor of the true in Rome, and I will have my vengeance in this life or the next. And you're just going, I remember, like, yes, go on, you tell him. And then Commodus, the weasel that he is, yeah, killed him, And you got Hans Zimmer's music, and you got, this is brilliant.
Yeah, I liked Proximal's speech about when he was a gladiator and the sound of the audience, the crowd, sorry, and the way he described it all.
Oh, you should see the Colosseum, Spaniard. 50,000 Romans watching every movement of your sword, willing you to make that killer blow. The silence before you strike, and the noise afterwards. It rises up like a storm, as if you were the thunder god himself.
You were a gladiator.
Yes, I was.
That was pretty special as well.
The recurring one, I think, the one which Maximus says to his troops at the beginning, "What do I do now?"
Oh,
What
yeah.
goes in eternity. Yeah, that's good. And obviously, strengthen on him.
Yeah.
Strengthen on him.
That some people don't know when they're conquered, and the Germans are all standing there shouting.
Yeah, and I like the other one, which is Commodus talking to Lucilla about the bee. Talking about, and the little bee was sad because, that whole story about whispers and betrayal. That's a really, really good scene. What's implied through the story there. That's good.
The little bee taught him everything.
But yeah, it's just full of another one. It's like, oh, you will see them again in the afterlife, but not yet. Not yet.
That was the other Proximal one when he was talking to the trader about the animals he sold him. Was it giraffes? They keep walking round and round, they're not mating. You sold me queer giraffes.
Giraffes, yeah.
He's got a guy buying the balls.
Yeah. No, that's actually one of the sad things there, because for Ollie Reed, that would have been a bit of a comeback for him to be starring in a big movie again, and one which obviously was a hugely successful one. That would have been the first time for him in some time, and it's a real shame he never got to, if you like, indulge in that success.
Yeah, well, apparently he spent a lot of time getting leathered with British sailors in Malta, so...
Well, he was having a good time, eh?
Yeah. I think also he's a really good actor.
Yeah.
I think he's always been a really good actor, just unfortunate with his alcoholism. Yeah, that affected his career. Yeah, but when he did it right, such in Gladiator, I mean, he was a very, very good actor.
Yeah, big time. And we kind of we've briefly touched upon it, but Hans Zimmer's soundtrack. I mean, do you have any particular themes from it that stand out?
Oh yeah, I mean, I bought the soundtrack when it came out on CD. That's so long ago it was. I've still got it.
Right.
And I love the opening sequence. With sort of the flutes and else where they get the title sequence. And then when the scene with the battle kicks in, you just hear in the background where everyone's getting ready. That's very special. And then when the whole soundtrack's superb. And it's hard to believe it was written and recorded in a space of like 2 or 3 weeks or something like that, because the original soundtrack was scrapped. Hans Zimmer had about 2 or 3 weeks to get this done, and to get a soundtrack of that quality done in that short space of time, it's something special. I mean, it's a brilliant soundtrack. And you talked about that favourite scene of yours with Maximus and Commodus, blah, blah, blah. So they walked out and you see the lift coming down, and you got the music in the background, everyone's going, Maximus, Maximus. Yeah, that gets me every time.
Apart from the one guy who's like, yeah, I'm not impressed. You see, I'm the one guy. I'm not clapping or chanting.
Yeah, it's one of my favourite soundtracks of all time. Definitely.
Yep, me too. And I mean, obviously, he was a famous composer before this movie, maybe most notably for The Lion King. But this was the soundtrack that made him, I think, really famous to a wide audience. I know certainly for me, that was when I first took notice of him, really was for this there. And I mean, this is one of the greatest movie soundtracks of all time. And Classic FM here in the UK, they do, I don't know if it's annually or not, but they do a top 50 soundtracks poll. And this one always gets into the top 10 easily, and quite rightly so. But yeah, it's the quieter moments, as you say, that kind of little theme when, Maximus is obviously dreaming of the afterlife and walking through the field with his hand, brushing the top of it. I don't know if it's corn or whatever it might be, is beautiful. I think the theme when he's kind of action theme, if you like, when he's on his horse trying to get back home, and then he gets there and finds his wife and child dead, and the music there is fantastic, and the Colosseum, the chariot fight and everything. Yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic soundtrack there. Criminally, I still don't have it on vinyl yet. How is that?
Is it available on vinyl?
It must be, but do you know what? It's one of these things where I kind of waited, because obviously with Gladiator 2 just coming out, I thought they might have done a special release of it. And then I'm now thinking maybe they'll do a 25th anniversary one next year. So I don't want to waste my money, and then next year it'll be gold-coloured vinyl gatefold soundtrack. Which invariably, that's what will happen if I buy it just now. So yeah, I'll wait and see what happens there. What do you think makes Gladiator so enduring 24 years after its release? We still love it. We still talk about it. We still watch it. Everybody remembers the very quotable lines from it. What makes it so enduring?
I think that's precisely it. The script is memorable. And the soundtrack, you might forget the film for a wee while, but then you hear about the soundtrack on the radio, or it pops up on iPod or Spotify or whatever. You say, oh yeah, I remember that. So yeah, it's those things, the visuals as well, because you think back to it, just stunning. The way it was made, the lighting, the set, CGI, which again, you couldn't really tell. Obviously, it was CGI, but you couldn't really tell by watching it, especially inside the Colosseum. It wasn't all that obvious it was CGI. We talked about it last time, but Star Wars, the CGI didn't overwhelm it. It just added to the film, made it better. So things like that make it memorable. I think, for me, the soundtrack is what makes it memorable, because anytime I hear it, I think, oh yeah, remember that scene, whatever. Yeah, just a very, very special film.
Yeah, I mean, and we forgot to say as well, we've been lucky enough to see, obviously, Hans Zimmer perform parts of Gladiator live in concert, and we've also seen I forget her names, Lisa
Gerard,
who performs on the soundtrack. We've seen her with Hans Zimmer performing excerpts from the movie, so we've been lucky enough to do that. But yeah, I mean, I think when she's singing over the top, I think especially when, as I mentioned already, Maximus has gone home and his wife and child are dead, and it's her singing over the top of it, and it's very, very emotive. Yeah, fantastic voice. But you're right. What makes anything enduring comes back to story, isn't it? Over the whole of history, and this just has a brilliant story. In a lot of ways, a very often told simple story. Of ultimately it comes love and revenge. But what has made it then great is everybody who's involved brought their A game to it and took this great story. And you've got this brilliant cast, you've got this brilliant soundtrack, this great director who's making it look fantastic, the great effects and everything. Everybody's brought their A game to this, and it's resulted in a special movie and certainly one of my all-time favourites. So what would you rate it out of 5, Paul?
I'm going to say 4.5, because there were some parts that dragged a wee bit. I think the scenes with the Senate, maybe some of the other parts as well, just felt a wee bit dragged out, but just a very minor quibble. So I'll say 4 3/4. There we go.
I must have heard you wrong there, Paul, because I didn't hear 5.
I'll say 5. I'll not be too picky, because I really didn't enjoy it that much.
Yeah, I know. It's an easy 5 for me. And I know where we're going with this final question. Does it deserve to remain in the Gladiator franchise? Well, it's a big yes for me.
I would say so, yeah.
Well, we'll see if Gladiator 2 gets that same strength and honor, yeah.
Like trimming the movie fat, why not check out our other podcast, Trimming the Musical Fat?
So yeah, Paul, thanks for joining me.
Thank you.
And thanks to you all for listening. So yeah, please come back next week when we take a look at the just released Gladiator 2. Was the near 25 wait worth it? So find out what we think then. So until then, strength and honor, Paul, and keep trimming.
I thought you were going to end it with, I hope you're entertained.
Were you not entertained?
Trimming the Movie Fat is a Stephen and Paul Nicholson production. We'd love to hear from you. Contact us by voicemail via the Spotify link in the episode description. You can email us at trimmingthemusicfat@gmail.com. Keep up to date with the show and access exclusive content by joining our Facebook group, subscribing to our YouTube channel, and following us on TikTok. You can also check out our website at trimmingthemusicalfat.com. Thanks for listening.